A private organization is attempting to, quote unquote, build the wall using private funds. Now, there's a small detail about this story that is just amazing, and I'm going to exploit that near the end of this video. I want to see if you guys can catch it on your own. I want to show you guys this video from Fox and Friends where they try to pretend as though this is just a great success story that they're finally building the wall. Take a look at this and then we'll talk about it.
Welcome back to Fox and Friends. Well, in the El Paso border sector alone, family unit apprehensions at the border have climbed 1,816% from March last year to April this year. Earlier this month, Border Patrol said it apprehends nearly 930 people there a day. And now there's a wall going up, a wall on private land. Chris Kobach joins us now. Chris, thanks for joining us. So, there's been a lot of frustration over legal challenges and ways in which the government, administrative state, has blocked this president from building the wall. You are building it, and you've got an exclusive for us on Fox and Friends. Tell us about it.
Yeah, Pete, this is the first time in American history that a private organization called We Build the Wall, but this is the first time any private organization has built border wall on private land, and it's happening right here in the El Paso area. And it's not just any piece of land. This piece of land is right where the El Paso wall that separates El Paso and Ciudad Juarez, where that wall ends. There's been a half-mile gap between the existing wall and Mount Cristo Rey. And it was a ridiculously large gap that smuggling of both people and drugs would go through. But get this, the Army Corps of Engineers said that piece of land is too rugged to build on. You can't build there. Well, We Build the Wall proved them wrong, and the wall has been going up over the weekend. We're working 24/7 over the holiday weekend to give America a present on this Memorial Day.
Let me get this straight. So you've been spending Memorial Day weekend literally building a wall in a gap in our border on private land. The walls, is it almost done?
Yes, it is almost done. And literally, we are standing in the gap and building the wall. It's extraordinary. And it's not just any wall, too. The typical fencing you see on the southern border where we do have steel bollard fencing is garden variety steel that lasts only 25 years. This is all weathering steel that lasts 75 years. And someone might say, well, hey, Chris, it's a half a mile. Well, how much impact can that have? As you mentioned in your lead-in, Pete, this closes a gap in the El Paso metro area, and it's far more important than 50 miles out in the desert where no one's crossing. There are, in a given night, over 100 migrants will come through this gap, and more than $100,000 in drugs will come through.
Built with.
Did you guys catch that very small detail that he threw in there at the end? It's a very important detail. It's half a mile long. So let me give you guys some more context into who this private organization is, what this private organization is. They raised on GoFundMe over $20 million. And Fox News, CNN, they put this on their headlines as like one of the biggest GoFundMe campaigns ever. And it was. Over $20 million is huge. But what's so funny about this story is that over $20 million should be able to afford you about a mile of wall. That should exploit how expensive this wall is that Donald Trump wants to purchase. He wants to drop like $25 billion onto this giant border wall. And these guys raised over $20 million. And everyone's like, oh my goodness, all the Republicans are cheering. Everyone's like super happy that we're finally building the wall. And it's half a mile long. Oh, I love this. I love it so much because you can go to that wall right now, guys, and you can see end to end that like these guys think like the Hispanics are going to go up to this border wall. And they're gonna be like, oh, what do we do? What are we gonna do? Guess we gotta turn around. You can see half a mile away, even though it's like on very minor hills. And like this guy's trying to pretend like we did it. We built on like the most complex terrain. Like the Rio Grande. No, it wasn't on the Rio Grande. It was like this little 10-foot high hill. You guys saw the videos. It was nothing. That was like flat land, basically. And they built a wall on it. You can see from end to end. You know what you do if you're trying to cross the border? You look a little bit down and you say, well, I've walked like 1,000 miles. I could probably walk another, 300, 500. I can't do math. Like 1,000 feet. At most, guys, on average, it's going to be 500 feet if you run into the middle of this wall. It's 500 feet both ways, basically. 500 feet? Wow, you did something. You're celebrating that? Are you serious? Like, obviously they're pushing propaganda at this point. If you're celebrating that you're blocking a Hispanic from walking at most a fourth a mile in any given direction, that's sad. That's sad. Your goals are way down here. But then when you talk about raising funds, all of a sudden you want $25 billion. So which is it? Which is a success story? Like, if this makes you guys so happy, if this makes you conservatives so happy, then how about we give you like a mile of wall and you give us Medicare for all? Because we'll be happy if you give us Medicare for all and we'll give you a mile wall. I'm okay with that because it's not that big of a wall. It's not that long. It's a mile. And this guy built half a mile. And what's even better about this story is that if you do some math and some like division and stuff, and you take Donald Trump's $25 billion wall or $50 billion, whatever it is, and you divide it up, Donald Trump's wall costs about $25 million, $22 million per mile. These guys dropped about the same amount of money and could only fund half a mile. Stop and think about that for a second. This private organization, which is supposed to operate better than the public organizations out there, this private organization built half a mile of wall with funds that should have built them a mile of wall. So that would suggest that Donald Trump's wall should be $50 to $100 billion if you want to actually replicate this sort of wall. That doesn't even include the costs of putting it up on like the Rio Grande and so forth, which, by the way, you can just cross. So honestly, when I saw this story, I was like, this is awesome. This is exactly the kind of news stories that I love to see because it is a failure but they're trying to put a spin on it so that it looks like a success. But then, progressive YouTube channels like myself can exploit Fox and Friends and show them how much of a laughingstock the border wall is. Which, by the way, let's just go back to the understanding that a border wall doesn't prevent illegal immigration. Hardly. Because most illegal immigrants either go through ports of entry or they fly in. Like, if I was a Republican, right, and I'm trying to, and I really don't want illegal immigrants coming into my country, my primary focus would be like TSA or something like that, or some sort of federal organization that prevents illegal immigration coming in from airlines, right? So why are you focused on the border wall? Why are you so focused on the border wall when research proves that the issue isn't the border wall? The issue is illegal immigrants coming across, flying into this country. Now, I take a lot more of a progressive stance than a lot of my fellow progressive YouTube channels like other much more popular progressive YouTube channels like Kyle Kalinski's Secular Talk, David Pakman, TYT, The Humanist Report, and so forth, Destiny or whatever. These guys typically take the position, the standard progressive position is that the border wall is not necessary and that we should still have an immigration system that benefits Americans. I believe in open borders. I take a more Rutger Bregman position. And if you guys don't know who Rutger Bregman is, he's the guy that went on Tucker Carlson's show and he completely exploited Tucker Carlson for being a millionaire being paid by billionaires. Rutger Bregman is a European progressive that is a true progressive. He fights for policy positions that I think all Americans would prefer, like 15-hour work weeks or open borders or universal basic income. These kind of positions are positions that at this point, even Americans, even progressives kind of question because they're so far to the left. But we're the richest nation in the world. And when other nations have done these policies and they worked, we can do it too. And on top of that, most people view America as this closed border country. We haven't even been open borders for 100 years yet. We've only been the majority of American history has been open borders. Most people don't realize this, but America stopped being open borders in like 1920. So the concept of not having open borders is actually a modern political position that was taken up by a lot of Republicans. And like Republicans were arguing that these immigrants were causing so many problems and that we needed to, put America first or whatever. But ironically, it was, up until the 1920s that Americans were prospering so much because of all the immigrants. I take the position that multicultural, you guys know what I'm trying to say. It's a good thing. It's a good thing, right? It's a good thing to invite people who are struggling into an economy that can work for them as well, and that they can work for us as well. So that's my position, but I know a lot of people, including my viewers, would probably disagree with me, and that's fair.